Hello again, everybody. Zack Attack is here with my TNA Impact Wrestling review for this Thursday evening, April the 3rd, 2014. I said last week's Impact was a lot more talk and a lot less action, but tonight there was indeed a little less talk and a lot more action tonight. Kind of made up for last week's okay Impact. I think tonight's Impact was decent. Yeah, kind of a bit of a silly ending for the main event, but it could build towards something, as relationship could be falling apart. Plus, we had a couple matches. I think we had a couple tag matches. We had two titles on the line. Of course, the Fatal 4-Way for the TNA World title. We had a start of a best 2 out of 3 series of the X Division Championship, which I think is a cool idea. And we also found out that a certain former head of the operations, of course, the TNA president, Dixie Carter, is slated to return next week. That should be. I should have thought she was going to come back in some way, or she is coming back as a character on screen next week. As we saw at the end of Impact, there's a little blip about who will feel the wrath of Dixie. But that'll be next week. But let's get down to this week's Impact. Decent Impact for what it was. Kicked off with a table match. It kicked off right away with a match, which was, like I said, the tables match involving Bully Ray and Willow, aka Jeff Hardy's alter ego, taking on EC3 and Mr. Bobby Roode. Now, of course, Bully Ray and Jeff Hardy / Willow, of course, members of the Dudleys and the Hardys, of course, former enemies in the WWE. It's kind of weird to see these two team up. I think they might have teamed up before, but in TNA it's kind of weird to see, especially the Bully Ray character being a face. And it's also kind of cool and funny to see them both do their famous double team moves with the former tag teams. Bully Ray doing the poetry motion on both sides with Hardy, and then Hardy doing the Weather with Bully Ray. That was kind of cool. Kind of cool. And then they're doing the get the tables, and there was tables everywhere. It was a fun match. This was a fun match. Of course, both teams attempted to put one of their opponents to the tables, and of course, let's say we saw this spot, EC3 and Roode was going to put Hardy through the table, and then Bully Ray moved the table to avoid him going through it. Same happened with EC3 moved the table, so Roode wouldn't get in as Hardy and Bully would do a double team move themselves, trying to put their opponent through a table. But it was kind of a decent back and forth little match because both guys were, of course, trying to put one of their opponents through their table. And as Hardy and Bully Ray were taking care of business, looking close to putting one of their opponents to the table, Rockstar Spud still coming from his little knee injury that he suffered through Willow and getting attacked last week as Willow was being hunted by EC3 and Spud. Spud came out, wheelchair and all, and Hardy came out to Spud outside, kicked his ass, literally drop kicked his ass in the chair, carrying him out. Now, unfortunately, Hardy was taking care of Spud, inadvertently had Hardy walk out high and dry on Mr. Bully Ray, leaving him prone to a 2-on-1 attack from EC3 and Roode. They took advantage of the man advantage with Hardy taking himself out of the match by taking care of Spud. They double teamed on Mr. Bully until Bully Ray did try to outone the numbers. He did try to outone the numbers game. He tried his best, trying to do his best moves of doing some double clothesline moves. But indeed, the numbers, despite Bully Ray's valiant effort of trying to outrun the numbers would indeed catch up to him as he himself, with nobody to help him, with his partner Hardy taking care of Spud. It was leaving Bully to be prone to a spine buster by Roode through the table in the victory for EC3 and Bobby Roode. But Roode wasn't done yet. He didn't put Bully Ray through just one table. He's had to put him to 2 more tables in a little post-match festivities. First, we would set up another table, delivering the Roode bomb to Bully Ray through a table. Then leaving him prone on a third table, going up the top rope with a big splash through a third. Of course, Bully Ray and Bobby Roode's feud is heating up big time. Of course, Bobby Roode wanted revenge for what Bully did last week, the beatdown attack through the little table thing last week that was unsanctioned by TNA. But now Bully Ray got put through 3 tables. I think this would heat up for a possible match. I think there's supposed to be a pay-per-view coming up. Sacrifice coming up April 19th. So that build-up, despite being a month in between, they should have more better build-up. But this match, probably there will be a match involving these two at Sacrifice for sure. So the feud heats up between Rude and Bully out of this matchup. As Rude puts Bully through not 1, not 2, but 3 tables. Revenge is served cold for Bully Ray from Bobby Roode. On to our next matchup. Straight jacket match. Ken Anderson, Mr. Anderson, against the creepy bastard, Samuel Shaw. Now, I was like, okay, are they going to hang the straight jacket on a pole and you have to grab it? Or does the loser have to go wear it? Or it was what it was. You had to put your opponent through a straight jacket. And that's what it was, basically. You had to put your opponent through a straight jacket. Kind of like having you put your opponent through a table in our last match. In a casket match, kind of like you put your opponent in a casket. It's kind of like that. Like they were carrying the straight jacket. It was an okay match, especially after the tables match. It was like kind of a hard act to follow because it was kind of a cool, fun match. This match was okay matchup. There should have been more weapons used. They just fought outside the ring a little bit. Choking each other out with the straight jacket. Like both men were fighting for it, trying to put one or the other in the straight jacket. And both had the other, at least in the straight jacket, at least had the straight jacket on him. But as they were about to tie, they kind of fought back. Like Anderson was being tied up by Mr. Shaw. Shaw did have the straight jacket on Anderson, but despite his arms being tied up to the straight jacket sleeves, Anderson did fought back to do the Green Bay driver move, is Death Valley driver move, and he took out Shaw. Then Shaw got put into the suit by Anderson, but before Anderson would get the tie up, low blow from Shaw. A lot of low blows tonight. There was even low blows during the Bully Ray match. There was some low blows during that match too. But as Shaw got out of that straight jacket, he put his little choke move on Mr. Anderson. Anderson knocked out. He put the straight jacket back on Anderson. And Anderson did try to get out of it. But he was choked back out. And he was tied up into the straight jacket in the victory for Sam Shaw, tying up Anderson in that straight jacket. It was an okay match. And Shaw, the creepy bastard, got the victory. It may put an end to the feud because I think Sam Shaw beat Anderson in lockdown, and a couple weeks ago in a street fight, Shaw lost to Anderson. Now, this is like the rubber match, and Shaw won. So, we'll see how this evolves into another match, but I think the feud may be ending with this situation. The little suspension last week was kind of silly, with Sam Shaw being suspended for cutting Christie's hair. That was kind of silly. But it was a hype up the storyline. Now, on to our next affair. We were going to get ready for the first match of the best 2 out of 3 series involving the X Division Championship on the line, and the best 2 out of 3, like I said, involving one-off tag team partners, Sonata and the X Division Challenger, Tigre Uno. Of course, the champ is Sonata. As they were about to fight, Kenny King, of course, the King of the Night, former X Division champion, he felt has been shafted a bit by MVP. We saw him return a little bit last week, and MVP had nothing for Kenny King last week, and he said he had some for him this week. But Kenny King came to the door, and he didn't have a match again. He was getting shafted again. He felt like he was being shafted again by MVP. I thought it was going to be like a long-lasting storyline saying, oh, Kenny, you're getting a match next week. No, you're not. I thought it was going to be a long, drawn-out storyline where it was like, oh, Kenny, you're going to fight this week. No, you're not. But next week you will. Then it kept going until Kenny finally gets a match. But it only lasted a week. As Kenny King called down MVP, where actually MVP came out to kind of prevent Kenny King from blah-blahing and interrupting his show. And Kenny King's like, if you don't want to put me in a match so bad with anybody, how about put me in a match against you tonight? A little exhibition. MVP tried his best to avoid it, but after Kenny King had a little cheap shot for MVP, MVP accepted. So we had this match set up. Sonata defending his title, the best 2 out of 3 against Tigre Uno. Best decision if we do a best 2 out of 3. Should be best 3 out of 5. because they had a best 3 out of 5 series with Bill Money and Motor City Machine Guns a couple years back for the TNA Tag Team Championships. Great matches. There was some stipulation matches, like a ladder match and one, and steel cage match. Great series of matches. So I had my little expectations for the first match of the best 2 out of 3 for Sonata and TK Uno, because I think these guys are kicking the X division up the ass big time, especially TK Uno. But I think it's like I said, it should be 3 out of 5, but it's 2 out of 3. Now, the first match was great. My only quip was it should have been longer. I know they were trying to cram as much in Impact tonight. You know, they had, 6 matches tonight, a lot of matches tonight. There was supposed to be 7, but I'll get to that in a moment, how that match got called off storyline-wise. But this match should have been better. Like, it was good, but it should have been longer. It was way too short, about 5 or 6 minutes. It should have been longer. They gave all the time in the world that straight jacket match, yet they should have gave all the time to Tiga Uno and Sonata, and didn't have and should have not had Kenny King interrupted. But for what it was a good little wrestling clip between both these guys. I think the matches could get better. You know, I think next week's match should be good, and it should be longer. But at least the potential's there. These two put on a good matchup. Good little back and forth action between both guys. A little bit of a spot fest. Not exactly a big spot fest, but it was a good spot for both guys. The ending was kind of quick. You know, it was too soon, in my opinion. With Tiga Uno getting knocked out by a Sonata doing a big double hook suplex move to set up the pin in the win with Sonata 1-0 in the best 2 out of 3 against Tiga Uno. I think we all know how this is going to go. Next week will be match 2. Tiga Uno wins, tying it up 1-1. And the third match in this best 3 series will be at Sacrifice. That's what I'm thinking they're going to do. That's exactly how they're going to do it. Have, Sonata win this match. Then next week, Tiga Uno wins the second match, making it even 1-1. In the end match, the third match, the best 2 out of 3 match, ender would be at Sacrifice. That's what I'm thinking. But it was a good match. Should have been longer. But I think we're going to get a lot of time next week between these two guys. But the potential's there for a good series. With Sonata winning the first match, should be good as we go along in this best 2 out of 3. Good idea. Needs better execution. Now, our next segment involving Magnus. Of course, Magnus and Abyss had the little issues started to come up. Ever since Abyss came into the fold of Mr. Magnus helping him retain the world title at Lockdown. It being a big help to Magnus retaining over Joe a few weeks ago, which set up the Fatal 4-Way that we have tonight. But then last week, as that match was made, seeds were planted for possibly Abyss and Magnus breaking up the business relationship a little bit too quickly here. Maybe they should have had a longer they could have a longer program, but may break up quickly. The seeds were planted for the possible breakup, as Abyss was angry over a loss over the Wolves last week in a tag match with him and Magnus. With Magnus tapping out to the Wolves submission move, and Abyss walked out with the title belt. He gave it back to Magnus later on, though, which set up this little thing as Magnus was seen backstage, but not Abyss yet. But it was to set him up for this segment with Abyss coming out in a suit. We've seen Joseph Park slash Abyss, of course, still oblivious. Joseph Park and Abyss are the same fucking person. Follow the storyline that Eric Young brought out the monster out of Joseph Park, made him realize that Joseph Park and Abyss are the same fucking person. That's why Abyss is back. And it's kind of weird to see, the Abyss character in a suit. It's kind of weird. And more weird was this segment. It's like Abyss is like standing there with Magnus, and Magnus is like, Abyss, you've had a lot of people try to tell you what to do. Whether it's James Mitchell, I thought that was like Abyss is like, I'm going to try to find someone who understands me. I thought they were going to bring back James Mitchell. That would be cool to bring back James Mitchell. But it's like, I trust you, Abyss. You're my guy. And we're British. We don't get emotional sometimes. We're going to get through this little huddle. We seem to have some problems because you're taking my belt and you're in the match with me. You're not going to help me. You're going to go for the title yourself. But Abyss, remember one thing. I love you, man. So after he said that, Magnus hugged Abyss. And I thought Sam Shaw was the creepy bastard. Apparently Magnus is a creepy bastard too. Because he hugged Abyss. Now this is when I should have had the creepy bastard chant when the Abyss was hugging Magnus in suit. That was kind of weird. But it was, like I said, more seeds are planted as we would see that evolve into our main event of the evening. Before we get to that, we had a tag team affair involving the first full tag match involving the reunited beautiful people Velvet Sky and Angelina Love turning heel last week. Kind of a little bit too quick for Velvet because she never had a real proper ending to a feud with Sabin and Alpha Female. That's an unsolved feud right there. But now they got a little feud going on as heels against Madison Rayne. Madison Rayne was in a tag team affair, teaming up with Brittany, one of the newest knockouts. Of course, a few weeks ago, Brittany won, and I say it that Brittany beat Gail Kim a few weeks ago in a fluke. It was just because of the whole Gail Kim Tappa storyline of White Off Tappas. Tappa's out of TNA. But back at OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling and Territory. So they had to kind of hype up Tappa, so it's like Tappa involved herself in a match with Gail and Brittany won because of that fluke. It's kind of like a 1-2-3 beats Ways of the Moon thing, kind of a fluke. But anyway, Brittany wanted to team up with Madison, and Madison agreed, even though she knew that Brittany was going to get herself into a web of trouble with these two vicious ladies back in the fold, with a little entrance, with the little silhouette of them coming out in the little cool outfits again. And beautiful people, they still got it, in my opinion. Like, they were faces, but first off, they were heels. And they were great heels then, and great heels now. As they would dominate the early half of this matchup with great double team moves, mostly focusing on the rookie, Brittany. Until, of course, like, Brittany needs more development. You know, like, she's only been in for a few weeks. It's only her second match in TNA. You know, the first match was against Gail. Now she's being thrusted with the TNA Knockouts champion kind of quickly. And you can tell she's not ready. You know, she was okay in the matchup, but she needs more character development and more time to develop her character and develop her wrestling style. So basically tagged in Madison for the hot tag going all over Angelina. I say those two have a match at Sacrifice. A lot of matches, I think, planted for Sacrifice, especially since Angie pinned Madison last week with a little help from Velvet. So, after Madison took care of Angelina, of course, she tagged in Brittany. But of course, when the referee turned, double team moves from the beautiful people would get Miss Brittany down for a big drop kick move. With a makeover move from Angelina in the victory, with a double team move behind the referee's back, pinning the new knockout Brittany and hyping up the feud with Madison. They need to bring back the paper bag, because when they were heels, they put paper bags on all the ugly people, as they would say. Because I said it a few weeks ago, say it again, their catchphrase was cleansing the world, one ugly person at a time. The beautiful people, the beautiful people. They're back, and they won their first match together, back together again, reunited, and it feels so good. Now, we were supposed to have another tag match. So that hair my ass tonight. Get a haircut. We were supposed to have a tag team title match involving the American Wolves, of course, Eddie and Davey taking on the tag team champs, the Bromans, hoping to get the titles back. Whether it was because of time constraints or it was because of real reasons, the match never happened. As Wolves were getting ready for the match with MVP, Jesse's tag team partner, Robbie E, came in with a matter saying that Jesse got injured, there's no match tonight. You know what they should have done? Make Zima Iron take his place. But they didn't do that. I think they basically they needed some reason. Like, okay, we had 6 matches, now we're going to have 7? Come on, we don't have time for 7. We got to cut a match. We got to cut a tag team title match. We got to write a storyline reason for it. Jesse got injured. Or in other words, postponing the match for Sacrifice. Mentioning Sacrifice tonight. You know, a lot of matches are possibly going to happen for Sacrifice. The next pay-per-view. It's only 2 weeks away. No fucking matches booked for it. What is this, WWE? Who don't promote matches till until days before the pay-per-view? Come on. Anyway, with that match canceled, or should I say postponed and Sacrifice, we would have an exhibition match involving Kenny King and MVP. Kind of a filler match. It was okay, a little matchup between these two guys. Kenny King back in the TNA ring for the first time since he got injured. Of course, the King of the Night and former X Division champion. Got a little cheap shot. Got to try to one up MVP with some little moves. Couple people saying boring. It was an okay match. It was a little boring. And it got really kind of got going when MVP got really physical and jumped on top of Kenny King, kind of rolled around. Referee couldn't break him up after the count of 5, causing the match to be a no contest. Kind of a weird, silly ending. Maybe a little bit more sillier than the main event, but still, the match never had a real proper ending. At least the main event had an ending, but anyway, a little bit of a cheap ending. They even tacked each other in the back. I think, once again, another match for Sacrifice. So I think matches for Sacrifice will be MVP against Kenny King, Wolves against the Bullmans, Velvet's little BFF, Angelina against Madison for the TNA Knockouts Championship, and Bobby Roode against Bully Ray. Could be a couple matches made for Sacrifice. And maybe a TNA title match at Sacrifice too, especially stemming from our main event of the evening, the Fatal 4-Way, 4 corners match, what may you call it, for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Abyss against Magnus versus Eric Young versus Samoa Joe. You look like Joe was going to kill me, buddy. And I'll say it. Eric Young did look okay in this match. I don't think Eric Young deserves to be world champion. He's a comedy guy, but of course, he said it last week. He can be as serious as he can be when he wants to be serious. And he was serious. He did attack Abyss earlier in the evening. Forgot to mention that part. After the Abyss hug out with Magnus, Eric Young came out to beat up Abyss, and then Joe came out to help. Of course, stemming up the more hype for this main event tonight. And Eric Young tried to be basically both these guys, all 4 of these guys, brawled as the bell rung as Joe went straight for Magnus, and of course, Eric Young went straight for Abyss. Took him outside the ring. It was an okay Fatal 4-Way match. Decent little matchup with Magnus being a little bit physical on Joe. And of course, Abyss being pummeled by Eric Young. Until, of course, Eric Young did try to fight off Abyss and Magnus. And it was a few times that Abyss was going to maybe go for the belt. Go for the belt instead of Magnus. But before that, we would see Magnus try to be put in the Nikita clutch by Joe. As Joe was going to finally get the title, finally have all the screw jobs and everything. But he was taken out by Abyss, who nailed him outside the steel steps on the floor, which would leave Eric Young and Magnus in there. And then Eric Young was trying to fight back. Like I said, he was being physical. He was being serious as he was wanting to be. But as Eric Young looked like he was going to get the big victory on Magnus, Abyss came in after taking out Joe, trying to take him out with a black hole slam, but instead he took the black hole slam to Eric Young. As he laid out Eric Young, he looked like, after he got the black hole slam at Eric, it looked like Magnus was going to lose the title for a minute, as Abyss was going to go for the pin. Like I said, guys, seeds for their breakup. So, Abyss was going to pin Eric, and Magnus was like, no, man. If you pin Eric, I lose. I owe you, Abyss. You and I own you. You don't work for TNA, you work for me. You do as I say. So basically, Abyss did all of Magnus' dirty work, laying Eric out with the black hole slam, and then Magnus went up the top rope with the elbow in the 1, 2, 3 victory. As Magnus retained with a little help from Abyss. Oh, Magnus, he got by with a little help from Abyss. Oh, he gets high with a little help from Abyss. Oh, he got by with a little help, from Abyss. I had to do that. So, with a little help from Abyss, Magnus retained the TNA World Championship. And Abyss was being reluctant to raise Magnus' hand in victory. So, like I said, the possible seeds are planted. I think like I said earlier, I think the business relationship should have went on a little bit longer than break up. Not like 2 or 3 weeks. Then it's like the seeds were planted last week with Abyss walking out with the belt. And now this week with the Abyss almost pinning Eric Young, almost costing Magnus the title by just trying to pin Eric Young. And then, reluctantly helping Magnus retain the title despite not wanting to. So I think seeds are planted for a possible Abyss Magnus feud. Maybe a little bit too quickly, but hey, it's TNA. So maybe another match for Sacrifice, Abyss and Magnus. And maybe add Joe in, triple threat. Like it was supposed to be until Eric Young added himself. It's supposed to be a triple threat tonight. But Eric Young had added himself in because he wants to settle his problems with Abyss. So possible matches for Sacrifice. We'll probably get a lot of matches for Sacrifice officially named next week. Possibly next week we may end up seeing the second match, like I predict the second match of the Best 2 out of 3 series for the X Division Championship involving Sonata and Tigre Uno. And also, like I mentioned, the return of Dixie Carter next week. Can't believe she's coming back on TV. I thought they were going to wind her up for good, but hey, she may come back in some other capacity, but they're advertising at the end, like I said, at the end of the show, the wrath of Dixie will be upon us next week, as she will return. She's still president, though, probably on and off screen. But we'll see what happens with that next week. With that in mind, you've been attacked by the review from Zach. Thank you all very much for watching. Have a great weekend, everybody. See ya. Yeah.